Anywho. Yeah, Perfect Blue. So this is a movie that I was actually super excited to finally watch. In the past, I feel like it's been difficult to find. So when I saw that it was for rent, I was like, oh, okay, great. Either that's because it's changed, or I just am terrible at Google Foo. You know, I don't know which one it was. But, it is available for rent. Unfortunately, nothing on the streaming platforms. To start things off, I do suggest that people watch it. Just get that out of the way. I liked it, which is not surprising. But unlike many, if not all other movies in Movie Club so far, I actually pretty much knew I was going to like this. Most of the other movies in Movie Club were forays into new directors or new genres, or movies that, like, actually were released in the past 10, 15 years, whatever. Like, because I would go to the movies quite often, and I just actually didn't have much interest in watching, so I kind of forced myself to watch it. You know, some were a good experience, some were lame. Like last week's Apollo 11, I just was like, ugh. Or 13. Anyways. Damn it! All the Apollos having numbers. Someone just tweeted about the Tom Hanks movie, so now I'm shit, now I can't remember which one's which. But anyways. Blockbuster? Yeah. Right? It's about the moon landing. This documentary. Wasn't very entertaining in my opinion. But regardless. Some other ones were really great, like 12 Angry Men. Really glad that I watched that. Okay. I was like, that had to make more sense, right? Because numbers are, they go in order. And the moon landing was before the disaster. Anywho. Only Apollos are Apollo. True dat. I don't know where he is right now. Ugh, I'm gonna have to go to get a hairband. I only have one light on right now, which looks fine. But even that is like, ugh, so warm. 3 Billboards in something, Missouri, or whatever it is. That's an awesome movie, actually. It's an amazing movie. Anywho. So, Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue was made in, I think, the 90s. By a director named Satoshi Kon. This was one of his first films that he actually got to, like, write and direct. He had been doing other things in anime before that, and he had a couple of, like, uncredited roles as well. But this was one of the first things that he did, and it kind of put him on the map. So, this review is kind of going to be, like, one part just talking about it as a movie, and another part talking about it as a movie in the line of Satoshi Kon movies, because Satoshi Kon is actually my favorite director. He unfortunately passed away quite some time ago at this point, I suppose. Pretty young, so we don't know what else he could have made, but he pretty much had 4 famous movies and like 1 or 2 somewhat famous like OVAs and series. So it's Perfect Blue. I could actually do this chronologically. Why not? He died a decade ago at this point. Okay, so he did Perfect Blue, then a couple of animation credits, then Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, Paranoia Agent, Paprika, and then his final work was a short film called Good Morning. But the 4 famous ones were Perfect Blue, Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, and Paprika, with Paranoia Agent being pretty popular at the time as well. I've watched 3 out of 4 of those movies that I just brought up, but I hadn't watched Perfect Blue, so I was like, actually, I really, really wanted to see this. I didn't have any apprehensions. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna like it. Talking about going into the movie, though, and obviously spoilers. What else to expect from Movie Club? But, like, going into the movie, it does start off relatively simple, but if you know anything about this director, then you know that it couldn't possibly be simple. The synopsis is that a J-pop star, not K-pop, J-pop star, up-and-coming star that is, decides that instead of carrying her career as a singer and a pop idol, that she'll instead go into acting because it has better money and is more respected. So she does. She leaves her trio and becomes an actress, and it's, you know, a tough road. But then people start dying that are connected with her, and she finds like basically a stalker is after her. So you know right off the bat, just if you read anything about the movie, that it's going to be at least a little bit creepy. Most of this guy's work is psychological. Now, as far as it being a thriller, that's I guess another question. 2 out of 4 films are definitely thrillers, I suppose. Well, it really depends, I guess, what you define as a genre. Perfect Blue is absolutely a psychological thriller. Like I don't think you can find a better genre fit for that movie. Maybe someone else with more movie experience, you know, lessons will tell me differently. More like a mindfuck. Call it psychological. All of his movies deal with like the psyche though, and they're all commentary on a lot of things that are happening in Japan. This one was a lot about Japan's growing obsession with fakeness, basically, with J-pop, because again, this was made back in the 90s. This would have been like the height of the Japanese what's the word I'm looking for? Media boom? Culture boom? Something like that, right? The 80s, we had a lot of technology. You know, everything good was made in Japan, right? We had the Karate Kid, and that was kind of it. 90s, we started getting a lot of people interested in anime because they were young. They were watching all the original good animes that are out there exists. And we had cartoons and anime kind of morphing together, so that eventually when your parents told you to turn off their cartoons, you were actually watching Naruto, but they just called it a cartoon. So I think that's an important context, right? Because I think in the past decade, more so, the 10s, Japan might have a different outlook on things, but this was kind of that height, the growing state of what we would eventually know to be as like an otaku culture. So otaku being that weird guy who's obsessed with anime and manga in Japan, a very frowned upon term that in America weebs took and like reappropriated, I guess might be the word. But absolutely was not a good thing. And a lot of this does, you know, also not was just manga and anime, but also the growing fascination with J-pop idols. So they had a lot of issues with stalking, and Apollo just keeps on moving this monitor. With stalking and just like kind of that shattering of perception that can happen when you grow obsessed with something, right? I feel like that was, and I don't know this accurately, I'm not a Japanese historian, certainly not in their social structure, culture, but I think that was like a big thing happening in the 90s specifically. So the movie, I think, did come out at a very like important time, that if maybe now you watched it, you would be like, yeah, okay. Like you'd believe it. It's not something that's totally out there, that there are stalkers, that there are people who are obsessed, especially with Japanese, with women artists. You know, K-pop has some of the same issues, but you might not actually think too hard about that. So just to provide some context there. But this is what it's actually like talking about. So the shattering of the self, we're talking about like psychological terms and all that, is something that this director always deals with. Now, people can do that with like a normal movie. I don't know how else to put it. A movie that doesn't have you wondering what the fuck is going on, right? There have been psychological thrillers that are a little like, oh shit, like this is messed up, but not necessarily making you go like, what the fuck is happening? I don't understand. This was more the latter, as is Paprika, which if you guys ever watched Inception, which most people did, basically Paprika is a better Inception. It came out before Inception. Inception was accused, maybe too strong of a word, but basically it was like, oh, that's Paprika to the people who watch Paprika. So I think Paprika, if you've ever seen Paprika or, again, Inception, then that's going to kind of set you up better into what Perfect Blue is. But Perfect Blue takes that and accelerates it, right? Because it makes it a murder mystery as well. And it also has the benefit of being in the anime medium, which we say anime kind of like with the connotation of just anything style-wise, right? And sometimes there's kind of a negative aspect to it as well. People will be like, oh, I don't watch anime. It's dumb. And you're like, anime is just a medium. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't like hand-drawn 2D art. Really? Everything? Yeah, I just don't, like, it's stupid, right? But we kind of get what people mean when they say they don't like anime. But this is a perk, is that all of this stuff is done in a world that you can create without having to rely on either gaudy, bad 3D effects, because it would have been the 90s, or the limitations of an actor, really, and set design and all that. So, you know, Inception, actually, talking about Inception, did an amazing thing with that room that tumbled, right? I don't think you would really ever expect a real-life film to ever be able to do that. But with anime, something drawn, something animated, like, you could absolutely do that. And then as far as, like, the actual style of anime compared to, like, a Pixar style, or Disney style, or Fox Entertainment style, whatever, animation style, it also can work, I think, to a more grim degree. Because I really feel like, let's say, Western animation never truly delved into like really messed up shit. Like, Western animation is definitely more well known for being happy. And even though anime is Japanese cartoons, they obviously came out with a lot of hardcore, super serious bangers that helped kind of make you reconsider what could actually be done with the medium. No one's going to expect Pixar to make an Akira. But people who know about Akira are like, yeah, anime can do that. 100% relevant to gender issues of the day. Well, we'll talk about that too. There's actually a lot of problems with Perfect Blue that I'll talk about after praising it, I guess. Stanhome's very cool. Oh, thank you. There are definitely disturbing Western animation, but I think that we're talking about things that aren't nearly as accepted. They're not broadly appealing, whereas lots of dark anime is accepted. So I know, like, French animation can actually be kind of fucked up and weird. But yeah, you wouldn't expect it from something, because, well, I think the other problem is that Western animation is so dominated by the likes of Pixar and DreamWorks, but anyways. So you got this great medium, you got this great director, and then you have the great context of the society. So you delve into it, and of course you got to figure there's a twist. So to start off with the movie, everything's kind of fine. There's one or two scenes right off the bat where you're like, wait, did I miss, like, hold on, that they kind of jump around in time a little bit, and you're kind of like, wait, is this the same? Hold on, what's happening? And for the first 15 minutes or whatever that is, like, you can kind of just be like, oh, I guess that's just the way they're describing what is happening. That's fine. You don't have to think a lot about it, but when you finish the movie, you realize that from the start, this movie is trying to fuck with your head, basically. So you start off with her last appearance. You're introduced to a really creepy guy, and unfortunately, as is expected, they made one of the bad guys physically disturbing. He looks weird. But that's a whole thing that 30 years ago was actually already overused, but whatever. It was 30 years ago, so let's just accept it and move on. He looks fucked up, and you're like, oh, that's going to be the bad guy. But, again, if you know anything about this director, you're going to be like, nah, there has to be a twist. There has to be something. Oh, there absolutely is. There absolutely is a twist. But he's obviously obsessed, but he seems like he could be a nice guy. He kind of defends her against a bunch of, assholes. She does her last performance while also showing her just day-to-day life, and it turns out that this is kind of her last performance and her segueing into being an actress. You meet some of the more important people around her life, like her talent manager. I don't really understand how it works, to be honest, but I think there was a talent agency director, let's say, and a talent manager, I think is kind of what was there. So there's a chick who's like more, intimate's a bad word for it. She's closer to the main character and seems to be really just conscious of her as, you know, being a young girl and, you know, trying to fight for what she wants and all that. And then the director is a guy who is just like, no, she needs to become an actress. That's where the money is, blah, blah, blah. So you kind of get the feeling that this chick is actually more on her side, more of like a motherly role or a sisterly role or something like that. And the guy is probably like the bad guy in context of stereotypical business head that we all like, the douchebag, right? Yeah, I was expecting that to be the twist, Cuddle Bunny, yeah. Oh, okay, that took me a minute, WikiLeaks. I was so confused, but yeah. That's the problem with this movie, is that it's really confusing. So she gets a very small, very, very small role. She's working with like the same movie company or something like that, TV show company, I'm not sure what. Maybe it's like it's a series plus a movie, I think is what probably happened. So she gets a very small role in the series. Eventually, like, the director like convinces everyone to give her bigger and better roles. So at first you find out, like, okay, someone's stalking her, right? She gets a letter from a fan that says, go to this web page, and it's apparently a web page where someone is writing her diary, but doing so with creepily detailed experiences and also, like, her feelings on the matter, which are true. So she's like, what the fuck, this isn't me, this is so creepy. But kind of just has to live with it, because she can't do anything about it. And an envelope gets mailed to the TV production studio. Her director opens it. It's like a mini bomb. He's only slightly injured, and it threatens to do more. Then she ends up getting bigger roles that end up trying to really mature her, basically. So they kind of touch on how you don't want to be an idol coming into acting, because no one will take you seriously. Everyone just think that you're, you know, the girl, the innocent girl. So they start pushing her for more lines, but also making it clear that they're open to more mature themes. So as soon as they do that, the writer of the show / movie, again, it was kind of weird, is like, I have something in mind. And they give her a rape scene. And this is just, like, overall is an interesting discussion, because there are so many things. Oh, God, like, how to put this? Rape scenes are almost universally terrible, right? There's been so much pushback on any rape scene that has come into play in the last, like, decade. You know, Game of Thrones, very controversial. Both rape scenes. The raping of, what the fuck was her name? Daenerys? Whatever, you know what I'm talking about. And then the rape of Sansa, which was only in the show. Basically, rape scenes are never well done. And if they are well done, it's usually because a woman was actually writing it. I'm not gonna say always, because, you know, definitely women directors fuck things up for sure. But they're almost always terrible. So when you see, like, a rape scene coming and you're like, you're in this weird place as someone, I guess, who actually cares about these issues. If you don't fucking care, then this is like a, you know, moot point. But as someone who does care, and I see the rape scene incoming, I'm just like, oh, shit. But wait, like, it's not really a rape scene, though. It's like, literally, she's doing a rape scene in a movie. It's a movie where she's making a movie, So this rape scene isn't even real. So how do I feel about that? Am I supposed to identify with her feelings on the rape scene and how much she hates it? Or am I just supposed to be me and hate the fucking rape scene? Like, that really tripped me out. But overall, I think that we still have a problem of, again, this being 30 years ago, but also one of Satoshi Kon's first films that he directed, where this movie still has a lot of looking at a woman as opposed to looking with a woman, if that makes any sense. It's the best way I can sum things up. You watch later films by this director, like Paprika, who was a female main character, and it's a lot more like you're discovering these things with her, looking at it with her and getting her emotions as opposed to just kind of like being told and just directing you to something. It's a very difficult thing to, I guess, explain, but it is nonetheless there. And feminists have actually been very interested in critiquing Satoshi Kon's films. So they've talked a decent bit about it, if you ever wanted to look into it. And you can relate, I think is what you meant, Viking. There's so much more that goes into it, though, than just like, oh, I understand, like, I can't, like, there's just, but moving on from that topic. That's kind of the first scene where you see that she's not okay. The first scene where it, like, you know, very much so shows that she's not okay. Before, she's just kind of, like, going along with things. She wants to be an actress. She wants to work hard. She does the rape scene. The guy who's the actor who is raping her even is like, I'm sorry. And she says, don't worry about it. And then they go on with the scene. But then right after, she goes home and she, like, her fish are dead, first of all. Which is sad. And she, like, starts to have a fit, basically. She didn't want to do it. But then she goes to that website that isn't her. It's not her writing it, but it is written as if it is her. And she reads what happens and her opinions on it, and is starting to, like, get obsessed with the person that is writing this blog that isn't her, but seems to be speaking to her in a more truthful way than she is speaking to herself. And she starts to kind of flip out a little bit. This is Perfect Blue, it says in the title. So that's the first time you get the feeling that something is going to be weird in this movie, really. Aside from the creepy guy. But that's when it turns from just like a potential murder mystery to, okay, what's going to happen here? More things happen. She's convinced to do a photo shoot where she gets naked, which she obviously didn't like. She starts to see the J-pop version of herself floating around. And she is starting to obsess with the idea that this, like, that's her and she's not her, and she needs to catch the thing there, and then she'll know exactly who she is. And it starts to actually break down the days differently, and you don't know what day is real and what day isn't. One day she's running after the mysterious figure, trying to catch it, and then she wakes up and there's no mention that she did that. She wakes up and does the exact same scene that she had run out on, except the scene she does it right. There's a scene where she is the actress, she's the character in the movie admitting that she is the character in the movie that is being diagnosed by the psychologist of having dissociative identity disorder, and says all the things that she actually experiences as a real human. And she's like, that's right, I'm an actress. But actually, then they immediately flip into her doing the exact same scene, except this time she says the movie dialogue, where she says, that's right, I'm a singer, or whatever the fuck it was, I don't remember. I'm a model, that's what it was. I'm a model, because that's what the character in the movie is saying. But she also was experiencing the same exact things as the person that she's playing in the movie. And it's like, it's not like a direct comparison. You're just getting like snippets of this movie and you don't know what is real and what isn't. She has a meeting with that chick who's kind of a motherly figure and breaks a glass and cuts her hand. The next day she has the exact same thing, and you're like, oh, is that fake? But then the person like brings it up basically, you're like, oh, it wasn't fake, and you're starting to get very confused and just like, what the fuck is happening? Just like she is. Yeah, Glaxian, yeah. So you're really getting like freaked out. And then to also add to this, because this is kind of getting to like the climax of the story, there are very specific animations that come along with Satoshi Kon's work. He's an animator himself, and he has a very strong idea as to how he wants people to move. So if you watch any Satoshi Kon movies, you actually will immediately be able to identify it. The art style is like somewhat unique, but the movement, the animation of the characters are incredibly unique. You would absolutely be able to watch any of the movie I just listed and be like, oh, that was him. You'd probably even watch some of the things that he was an animation key director on and be like, oh, it's so unique. So that's I can't explain it too well. You have to really watch it, but he has a way of like making people almost like they're in slow motion. They're a little bit weird. They're a little bit gliding. They're a little bit slower than you would expect when they run type thing. And that whole animation style adds on top of all the fucked up things that are happening. You're just like, what the hell? Then you have the soundtrack, which I've actually not looked up how often he's worked with the same person, but all the soundtracks of his movies are pretty damn impactful. And in this one, it was really no different. I'd say 2 of the tracks really stood out, and those are the ones where she was starting to, with the climax is happening, like things were starting to happen. So you have all these things building up. You have the pacing of the movie getting faster, and then you have the inevitable contact. At one point, she imagines herself killing the photographer of that photo shoot where she had to get naked. And initially they keep like the person secret, but then it's revealed that it's her, but is it really her? Because she wakes up in her bed, but then she finds bloody clothes in her closet. Is that real? Was that actually a real thing that happened? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think it is, the rest of the movie, but but the person really did die, got stabbed to death. The guy who wrote her rape scene got stabbed to death. His eyes gouged out, actually. Very creepy murder scenes that are well done. And then you have, finally, her meeting the guy who is tormenting her. Well, and people that she works with anyways. And he does kidnap her. He then brings her to the same exact set, because it's inside the production facility, studio, that's what it's called. And he brings her to the exact same spot where she was raped on camera. And tries to rape her. Well, kill her, but also rape her before that. She actually manages to escape. Puts a hammer in the guy's skull. But when she returns, there's nothing there. So it was like, oh fuck, was that real or wasn't it? You think things are going to get better. She continues having visions of this other her. That is, again, she's dressed in like regular clothing, and this vision that she has is like the same outfit she was wearing the last time she was a singer. She keeps appearing, and she keeps on like being tormented by her. And then after this like second almost rape scene, I suppose, she sees her again, except this time it turns out that this is actually a real person, and you're like, holy fuck. And it turns out it's the chick that was mothering her. And you realize that all the times this chick was like being friendly with her or trying to protect her from, you know, big bad actor world, like not want to do a rape scene or anything like that, was because she wanted to be her. She had this vision of what, I think her name is Mimi or something like that, what she was, and she didn't want that to change, and when it did, it like mentally broke her. So this chick, who by the way is like very noticeably different, right? She's got really weird facial structure, she's overweight, she's wearing the exact same outfit that is only really going to look good on a very skinny, small woman. And it blurs between showing her being comically ugly in that outfit to actually morphing back into Mimi and her looking fabulous in the outfit. And there ends up being a chase scene, basically, where fake Mimi wants to kill her because she oh god, how would I even explain this? The fake Mimi thinks that the real one is fake because the real one is trying to be an actress and all that and isn't adhering to her vision, so she must be the fake one, and then, you know, herself is the real one, dressed up in like a fucking wig and shit. And you find out also that she was the one that was writing the blog, and that's why she knew all the feelings and like exactly what was happening. She also was the one, she had been contacting the creepy dude as the person. So he also thought that the actress, the real one, was fake. Ew, so weird, man. Yeah, exactly, Laxian. It's so hard to explain, but it's so well done in the movie. And then there's a chase scene. Eventually, she gets stabbed in the gut because the real one ends up grabbing her hair and taking off the wig, and that like broke the illusion temporarily, so that the woman like had to scream and go grab it. And then she actually stabbed herself. There was a glass window that was broken, and she like accidentally like lunges on it. But that doesn't kill her. She ends up going into the street, and then when she's in the street, recovering and trying to be the J-pop person again, there's a truck that comes at her that is very much so mimicking the lights of a crowd. So she voluntarily goes to die, not knowing, I guess, that she was going to die. And the real character saves her life, which is very nice of her to do. And then the movie ends with very much so like the movie that was in the movie, with a psychiatrist talking to the real one about what went wrong with that chick. And this chick is continuing to envision herself as like a J-pop chick and is, you know, still not well mentally. But the real one, the main character, this is like years later, is now a famous actress, and she's like, you know, like, I can't be mad at her because she helped me find out who I was. And it ends with her saying that she's confident in herself, basically, that her psyche is whole again, and she developed as a person and is her own character. And you're like, wow, a happy ending, which is totally unexpected, by the way. I didn't expect a happy ending, but typically Satoshi Kon's work it's fucked up, but it also usually ends on a happy note. It has happy elements to it, so I never feel depressed after a Satoshi Kon movie. Yeah. But yeah, that sums it up. But it is so important to, like, actually explain what is happening, because every moment is just so tied in with, like, the theme and what they're trying to work with and what they're trying to show you. I feel like sometimes movies try really hard to be something, and I can only describe them as try hard. I know it's a vague word, and it's a word people sometimes hate because they're like, they just tried hard. Like, that's not a bad thing, but you know what I mean. They just try hard, and it just comes off like they tried really hard. And I hate those movies, which is actually why I don't like Miyazaki movies. I feel like he is just fucking lunging in your face that this is supposed to be a peaceful film about love and happiness, and here are the other themes of my movie. Fucking love them! And I hate it. But I always felt like Satoshi Kon, even though these things were obviously fucked up, you're not gonna miss out on the whole, oh, well, they're her and that's her, okay, like, but I always felt like everything he did had a purpose other than just being like, fucking look at me! Like, they were always interesting, they were always executed well, they always contributed to the next part of the story. They went around. You ended a movie and went, holy shit, and you want to go back to the beginning of the movie. I always thought his stuff was really good. And I wasn't disappointed by Perfect Blue. The stuff I was disappointed in was absolutely his again, like, male gaze is definitely a word you would use if you were critiquing his stuff. Perfect Blue was kind of like, it very much so felt like that was his first work. It felt like an unpolished movie compared to Paprika, which was one of his last works. And dealt with a lot of the same stuff, too. Paprika and Perfect Blue are pretty close together. Even Millennium Actress is pretty close together. She's literally an actress, so that helps. The only one that's different is Tokyo Godfathers. But even that, the main confrontation, here we go. The main confrontation in Tokyo Godfathers is actually about the same exact thing. A woman stole a baby because she lost hers and couldn't deal with the reality that she lost her baby. So, like, he loves, like, tinkering with this type of stuff. And he's actually said in an interview, I think it's on Wikipedia, so I'm going to bring it up. Where is it? There it is. Kon has stated that female characters are easier to write because he is not able to show the character in the same way as a male character, and can project my obsession onto the characters and expand the aspects I want to describe. Quote. So basically, he's admitting that he can't write female characters from the same perspective, which is fair, and is trying to use that to an advantage. Yeah. I found, like, this is the type of movie that I really liked going to Google for. You know, there's the obvious going to Google, like, people probably Googled the end of Inception. Was he still dreaming? Blah, 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 blah. I didn't think it was that interesting, but fine. You know? And then there are movies that I feel like very strongly I could actually just read papers about, essays about, and see them from new angles. You know, the type of movie that an English teacher, literature teacher, is going to show in her goddamn class. That's the type of movie. And I think they're so cool. Sometimes, again, they're a little try-hard and I don't like them. But sometimes I also think that they're beautiful and amazing and complicated. And I want to learn more about it. And, like, every Satoshi Kon film has been that. Some of the shots were constructed, like one of the early moments when you see her getting overwhelmed. Yeah. Like, I think that also plays into how you can do something with animation over real life. Yeah. But he's been very good about that. Actually, in Paprika, he has a character. The police officer is actually a failed filmmaker. An amateur filmmaker, I don't know what you want to call it. And he actually has, in that film, a scene where he talks about the mechanics, I guess, of filmmaking. So yeah, I always got the impression that Satoshi Kon was, like, very technically skilled. And then he had that obsession with humans that usually makes a good writer, right? Good writers can take an otherwise mundane series of events and make them very interesting. Because we are actually interested in humans as much as we say otherwise in some cases. Thank you, Matosai. So I always highly respected his work, as you can tell. But I definitely would say that he has some issues that I feel like he would very strongly have benefited from I don't know about co-director, but a woman basically on the team. Because of the thing I just said, like his quote, you actually find that most of his most of his films are the women are the main characters. And while I think he does a good job with them, and has gotten like better over the years, again, is not like just telling you at you what they are, but rather letting you discover them as like a human, I guess. I always felt like it would be better. And Perfect Blue was definitely the first time, I guess, that like the 30 years or 20 years until his death. After Perfect Blue, I felt like he developed a lot. But Perfect Blue is still a very interesting piece. So I heavily suggest watching it. The very common comparison / people have actually said that it's a bit of a ripoff is not just Inception and Paprika, but Perfect Blue and Black Swan, apparently, which I never watched. So I can't really speak to it. But apparently the director of Perfect Swan, exactly, of Black Swan acknowledged similarities, but said it wasn't directly inspired by. And I think that's fair, just because you have two movies about a woman and her break of reality doesn't mean that they're identical. Yeah, it's the ballerina movie. But apparently, like, it's actually a movie I'd be interested in watching. Maybe I should put it on my list, right? Because apparently it's actually kind of fucked up. And I've slowly I've gotten used to admitting that I like fucked up movies. They're done well. Some movies just want to be fucked up for the shock factor, but yeah. I'll add that to my list of things I need to watch. There's some movies that I actually was interested in watching, but then my mother wasn't, and I would usually go to the movies with my mom. So that's also another reason I've missed out on some movies. But heavily suggest that you guys watch Perfect Blue, and also like heavily suggest that you guys watch basically anything from this guy. Yeah, I think it's so good. Apparently there's an English dub. Not surprising, but probably don't listen to the English dub. I'm gonna click on this link, and we're gonna find out how bad this is.
Well, it totally makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, it's already terrible.
Rumi, I was just wondering about...
About what?
About the other day.
Oh, that? Okay. Credit card number...
Also,
Don't
it was
you think we
amazing
should
watching
at
them.
least let the police know about it?
Amazing watching them set up a computer. Like, they went so into detail about the animation of the computer. I was like, holy shit, I remember this. I remember that navigator. That's amazing. Also, side note, apparently you can watch the entire movie on YouTube. Oh, I love video essays, yeah. I remember a Polish film, Decalogue 6. Huh. Ugh. Doesn't sound much like love. I'd also love to try and find at least a scene that can describe what I'm talking about. I mean, obviously the end scenes are the weirdest ones. That's where the things start really going haywire.
This is not my room. Of course not. This is Mima's room.
Yeah, so this is Mima, not Mimi. My bad.
You're...
Oh my god, I never noticed. Wait. Shit. Look at the mirror.
No, this is not my room. Of course not. This is Mima's room.
Oh my god, they showed it in the mirror. I didn't notice that the first time I watched it. I mean, they end up doing it more obviously.
Fabulous.
Yeah, there you go. More obviously, but I didn't know that's like the first thing they did.
It's perfect on me.
But Rumi, why are you...
Call her Rumi.
Why is Rumi
Localization is so tough. It isn't. It's just like because there's translation and then there's like localization and oh god. Escape was the best. Was it though? Oh, the other thing I wanted to show actually real quick was the animation, and you'll like which one's the best example of this? Is the ending. I think actually there's a chase scene earlier that's a better representation. Nope, that's the rape scene right there. Not that one. Murder scene. Singing scene. Up, photograph scene. Oh, is it this one? Yeah, I think it's this one. This animation of the character she's chasing is like very Satoshi Kon. And you'll see like a lot of this in Paprika. Whoops, it isn't. You see what I mean about like the like oddly slow, like it's very just like I know it sounds weird, but a very descriptive way of animating. Like when she bumps into the corner here, it's like very detailed. It's like a human would, but at the same time also not really. A human wouldn't do it so quickly and so I guess perfectly, but it's also not the elegant just turning a corner either that, you know, an anime would do, because why bother wasting money on trying to animate the collapsing and the pushing away. But yeah. I really like his stuff. Because it also appeals to my like animation sense, I guess. In a way that a lot of like movies in real life, you know, obviously can't, but I did want to be an animator. And like so much of this stuff is cool. I wonder if there's any like oh fuck, I can't remember the name. Tests. Pencil tests. Pencil tests. Well, that's not how you do it. Nah, no pencil tests. I wonder if there's any for the newer ones. Nah. I love pencil tests, but they're pretty rare. Akira has some, which is pretty cool. He's purposely playing it out, but that's what he does in like everything he does. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just the way that he animates. It's a weirdly realistic. It's not realistic, but it is more realistic. And the way that he like animates all of his characters, they all have very unique ways of running, which I wish I could show, but it might be tough. Oh, actually, I think this is actually perfect. I love Tokyo Godfathers. Yeah, each one of them runs very differently. I feel like Tokyo Godfathers wasn't dubbed. Impressionistic? Wow, that's a smart boy word right there, but you might be right. We're sounding smarter than we really are, but it's almost like impressionism. Of Naughty Dog games. Really? Small character movements, interactions. I think I get what you're saying. It's been a while since I played a Naughty Dog game, though. Yeah, I just feel like nothing's ever wasted in his animations. Okay, first of all, this isn't what I was gonna listen to. First of all, the J-pop in this movie actually was not bad. For being not real J-pop. It wasn't bad. But I gotta imagine it was easy enough to find someone who could do a authentic J-pop song. Not a robot. This was such a weird song. Like, this doesn't sound like a weird song, but if you watch the movie, this song is in the, it's in a couple of really creepy scenes. So you have a normal intro to a song, actually, back in the day. But imagine this with, like, blood smeared on the walls. Empty parking lot. It's creepy. And then you had the actual creepy songs. This song reminded me so much of Akira. Akira had some real creepy songs. Oh, that's right, I played The Last of Us. Yeah, okay, yeah. Creepy had a super weird way of moving. He did, yeah. The other thing I noticed is that, and it had to have been on purpose, but the two villains, basically, they end up being villains, both have very odd eyes. Now, for the guy, he's actually just a weird-looking motherfucker, so maybe he just has weird eyes. But she also did. She had, like, toad eyes, basically. They were so far apart from each other, it looked like an animation error. But it was consistent. And I can only imagine what the purpose of that was. If they just are supposed to look weird, and the weirdest thing you can do to a person is their eyes. You can give them a big nose, small nose, no nose. Give them a big mouth. But if their eyes are, like, really weird, I think that's the weirdest thing you can do to a human. Or if it's some, like, really far out there, the eyes are like the window to the soul and all that shit, and they are so far apart from each other. It's like representing how much of a, like, her mind has been broken in two. That's the type of thing that you'd bring up in, yeah, AP Lit class. When I read a bunch of Akira manga before seeing the movie, spoiler, was unhappy with the movie. Well, I mean, spoiler, the same guy who wrote the manga did the movie. Can't get much better than that. I have read the manga. I think both are very good testaments to their respective medium. True that, WikiLeaks. But there are movies that will use, girls just want to have fun. And maybe they slow it down, maybe they don't. And that can be creepy. But then I feel like the soundtrack here actually made a song that is uniquely both creepy and not creepy. Without the context. I really like Akira as well. So spoiler alert for that one. Sounds like it belongs in Resident Evil. Oh, there's a happy song though. Cheetah. Oh, is that guy? I didn't really realize he had a name. Everybody likes Akira? I mean, Glaxian just said he didn't. I don't know how else you can't really make an Akira movie that's entirely based off the manga. It's like, I think it's literally impossible. Unless it was 3 hours long. Have fun. Forget anything else I wanted to talk about. Borsey, your image in Discord is not incorrect. It's not incorrect. The Pikachu track is so weird. It's supposed to be. It's kind of tough, actually. There we go. Oh, I do recognize that name. Music. Music. Alright, so he does. Literally. Might be the same person. No, actually. Okay, so Suzuma Hirasawa did Paprika and Millennium Actress, which I'm not surprised by. But then other people did Perfect Blue and Tokyo Godfathers. You have a favorite word from Satoshi Kon? Yeah, Tokyo Godfathers is my favorite. I think if I had to list them, it's Tokyo Godfathers, Paprika, Perfect Blue, and the Millennium Actress. I rewatched Millennium Actress like last year, and I wasn't as enthralled as the first time I saw it. So I actually think that I like Perfect Blue better. But Tokyo Godfathers and Paprika, for sure. Tokyo Godfathers is a nice comedy. If you guys are not prepared to go into psychological thriller territory, but you still thought that this, the hype that I gave for the guy sounds really interesting, then you should watch Tokyo Godfathers. It's a comedy. If you really, really, really liked the psychological thriller and was like, I need more of that shit in like 20 years updated, then watch Paprika. I haven't watched Penno Agent yet. What's next up on the movie club menu? Good question. Yeah, I basically watch everything of Satoshi Kon, but I think subject matter might turn people off. Like, I think Millennium Actress is actually the most famous of his movies. Paprika got famous because, well, it's his most recent. And Inception came up very shortly afterwards, so when people were like, that's like Paprika, people were like, what are you talking about? And they actually went back and watched Paprika. But Millennium Actress is actually, I think, kind of... It's the most well-loved. It appeals to the most people, I guess. Yeah. I need a bookmark where I put this list of movies. Honestly. I got my fuck it planner out, but see, literally, chill the fuck out, chill. By the way, Apollo's been chilling with me this entire time. You do you, Apollo. You know, I was supposed to get my car checked before this whole quarantine thing. I don't know how that's gonna work out. It's also supposed to get fillings done. So that's awkward. Fucking A. Finally, Jesus. Finally! Okay. So we watched a foreign film, an anime, though, to be fair. Could go a different genre, medium direction. We watched a movie about Germany and a Tarantino film. Just trying to make sure that I get some variety, but let's see, what do I want to watch next? I'm gonna watch Okja. Okja? Okja. It's a Netflix film, I believe.